The longsword in Monster Hunter Rise is the strongest version of the longsword that they've ever made. Now that's a pretty big statement, but in this video we're going to be talking about the main differences in the longsword from Monster Hunter World Iceborne to Monster Hunter Rise, for those people who are going to start Rise when it's now out on PC. And by the end of this video, you'll probably agree with me. So yeah, basically the main things we're going to go through in this video are going to be the changes to Quick Sheathe, the changes to Iai Spirit Slash, the numerical buffs we get, as well as the addition of wire bug attacks and switch skills. So yeah, let's start off with Quick Sheathe. So the big thing is that Quick Sheathe now has a huge effect on Special Sheathe. So Special Sheathe was when you press the right trigger button and your B button to enter the stance. And basically, Quick Sheathe now changes your animation of Special Sheathe and makes it so much faster. So I'll put a comparison on screen right now, and basically you can see that it's hugely faster. So this, of course, changes a few things. One of the nice and obvious ones is that it means your attack animation is much faster. You can get in and out much more quickly. You can combo it a bit better. Because it's faster, you can actually use your Iai Spirit Slash on reaction. So you no longer need to rely on Foresight Slash. Because it's so much faster, if you can see a monster attacking, you can actually react in time. You don't even need to predict it. So basically it becomes much easier to use. Actually as well, another nice change is that you can now roll out of Special Sheathe, which you couldn't do in Iceborne. So it's a lot lower commitment. You can just get in there in preparation, and if nothing happens, you just roll, and now you're unsheathed and can get back into the fight. But the biggest thing that Quick Sheathe now does is it lets you self-trigger counters. What this means is if I use my barrel bomb, I can draw with my Spirit Sheathe, and I go straight into Special Sheathe and Iai Spirit Slash. This is actually incredibly easy and reliable once you get a hang of it. So just spam your right trigger button, and then immediately go into Special Sheathe and spam your trigger button again. So yeah, it's incredibly good, incredibly easy. Now, if you were paying attention very closely, you might have noticed that my spirit level went up. And that's the other big buff they gave to Iai Spirit Slash. So in World Iceborne, if you succeeded, it would reset your gauge, and if you failed your Iai Spirit Slash, you would drop a level down. In this one, if you fail, nothing happens. You don't get punished at all. But if you succeed, you level up your spirit gauge. So instead of making you weaker if you use it, it makes you stronger, which is incredibly ridiculous. In addition to that, it also now leads into Spirit Blade 3. So basically, let's get the spirit level down. So basically what this means is that if you're on wide gauge, for example, and you have a decently full spirit meter, what you can do is you can small barrel bomb, go straight into your Iai Spirit Slash, and then continue on with your spirit combo, and go straight from white to red incredibly quickly. So yeah, that makes it incredibly good. So in summary, Iai Spirit Slash is faster, easier to use, actually increases your level instead of decreasing it, gives you more options outside of it. So yeah, it's better in so many ways. Of course, the bad side is that because of that, they obviously decrease the damage by about 44%. Wait, hold on. Sorry. So they increased the damage by 44%. So they just made it stronger in basically every way. So it's easier, faster, improves your options, makes you stronger, and has like 44% higher damage, which is absolutely ridiculous. So basically because of that, if a monster is down, for example, it's actually like pretty much your highest DPS if you just barrel bomb and go straight into your Special Sheathe. This does more damage than your full spirit combo. So if you're unsheathed, this is the highest DPS if you aren't doing TA buttons, of course. In addition to that, you also got more damage on our Spirit Helm Breaker by 24%. So now it's ridiculously high. More damage than the TCS, than the Greatsword's TCS, actually. So yeah, there's a full comparison chart on screen right now. So the bad thing, the unfortunate thing, is we lose a lot of damage on the Jumping Spirit Blade. That used to be incredibly high DPS in World and Iceborne. Now it's not really worth using for damage. But other than that, we got in general a huge damage increase across the board. We got a huge increase for the normal Iai Slash, which is nice. Everything else stayed the same or increased slightly. The only other thing that decreased was the Spirit Blade 3, but everything else got more damage. So yeah, across the board we got like a 10% damage buff, which is really, really good in addition to everything else. So yeah, we got some pretty nice raw damage buffs, but we also got elemental damage buffs, which is pretty ridiculous. So now your spirit level affects your elemental damage as well. So at red gauge we have 20% raw and 20% elemental, which is basically a 20% increase in elemental damage across the board. And we got additional damage on our main two attacks, the Iai Spirit Slash and the Helm Breaker, basically due to mechanical changes. So yeah, we got over double damage on the Iai Spirit Slash for elemental, and almost double damage increase on the Spirit Helm Breaker, which is really, really good. Basically, this just means that elemental damage is actually comparable to raw, and in many cases it's actually superior to raw damage. So we got a huge raw damage buff, but they buffed the elemental even more, that it's now comparable. Basically, we got huge numerical buffs in addition to all of those mechanical buffs we got. So yeah, it's really, really good and really, really strong. So yeah, basically those are the main small things that changed, but of course we got some big things. So we have Wirebug Silkbind attacks. So these are the major changes. So Wirebug Silkbind, one of them became the Spirit Helm Breaker. So before the Spirit Helm Breaker was your stab, you go up and you go down. Here now it uses a Wirebug. The button input changed. It used to be the right trigger, now it's the left trigger. But now once you do it, you basically go up and you go down. Because you now use the Wirebug, we move a lot farther. So basically you can do it from a huge distance away. You don't need to do it when you're near the monster. You still need to have your weapon unsheathed, but now we have ridiculously huge range. And we have higher damage, as we said before, that 24% damage increase. The downside is that we now use a Wirebug. Each Wirebug, when you're using Spirit Helm Breaker, has a 20-second cooldown. So you can't spam it quite as fast as the Spirit Helm Breaker in Iceborne, but it's easier to use, it has more damage, it's generally a buff. The additional Silkbind attack we got was the Serene Pose. So the Serene Pose is 2 Wirebugs, which is quite a lot. The first one has a 10-second cooldown, the second one has a 20-second cooldown, but it has similar damage mechanics to the Spirit Helm Breaker in that it increases damage greatly with spirit level, but it decreases your spirit level when you use it. What this means is it's something you're supposed to use when you have red, only really use it if you have red, but basically it's a huge single hit counter. So you do it, oops, that was the wrong input. You do it with your left trigger and your right base button. So on the Switch controller it's the A. So yeah, but you use again two of your Wirebugs. Now, what makes this really, really good, because they keep wanting to give us more toys, is that you can actually use it as a wake-up hit. It has, I think, a 200 motion value at red, which is comparable to the TCS, which means that if there's no great sword user on your team, you're basically the sleep attacker, which is ridiculous. So yeah, basically what you want to do is you want to use your barrel bomb, and you can self-trigger it, as you saw there. But there then becomes an issue of spacing. Basically your barrel bomb will usually wake up the monster and do damage, so you can see it does 20 damage. And if it's in the range of the barrel bomb, it's going to wake up with that. So basically my way of spacing the attacks, actually let me quickly increase my gauge, just so you can see the damage. Okay, so my way of spacing the monster is I like to be in contact with the monster, so I just touch the monster, then I turn around, I just tap the button down, press the spirit draw, so the right trigger, sheath, place a small barrel bomb, and then I turn around and do the Serene Pose. So that was 1025 damage. If the monster was asleep, that would have been 2050 damage. But yeah, so we do a lot of damage now on wake up hits, which is nice. So to show you that again, you go up to the monster's face, turn around, Spirit Draw, Sheathe, place Barrel Bomb. Sorry. Nerves. Let's try that again. Walk up the monster, turn around, Spirit Draw, Sheathe, and then reverse and Serene Pose. So yeah, also this does lead into a Spirit Blade combo as well. So if you do have some gauge, which is pretty tough, but if you do have it, you can do damage that way. But yeah, so basically we now have a nice wake up attack. So yeah, so that is our main two Silkbind attacks. But like every other weapon in the game, we get switch skills. So we get 3 alternative moves we can use. One is the Silkbind Sakura Slash, which you unlock at Village 3. One is the Drawn Double Slash, which you get for crafting many, I believe 8 longswords, 8 different longswords. And the Spirit Reckoning, which you get from a Hub 6 optional mission. So let me go and change my switch skills briefly. So the first one you get is the Silkbind Sakura Slash, which you get just from unlocking Village 3 quests. So the Silkbind Sakura Slash replaces Spirit Helm Breaker. It's done using the same input. And basically what it does is 2 hits, which lead up into an additional 10 hits. But the big difference is that it increases your spirit level rather than decreasing it, with much lower damage and a much higher cooldown. Now, if you aren't very good at the longsword and you can't increase your spirit gauge, mainly with your Iai Spirit Slash, this one can be nice, but I would not recommend this. The damage is so much lower, and the cooldown is so much higher. Basically, the Spirit Helm Breaker is almost always going to be the way to go. There's no real reason to use Silkbind Sakura Slash, unfortunately. But it's a nice beginning option, although I would recommend you go to Spirit Helm Breaker as soon as possible so you can learn how to use it properly. The second change is basically the opposite. So we get Drawn Double Slash. So this is our draw attack. Now if you press the top base button, you do 2 slashes. Now this has a lot of really cool benefits. So instead of doing 26 damage, we do almost double that. 2 hits that add up to 55 damage. It also ignores flinches when you're drawing the attack. So if an enemy is roaring, for example, you can go straight into the attack. Now, obviously, it's preferable that you go into your Iai Spirit Slash, but if you're sheathed, you can't really do that. So it's a nice panic option if you can't do anything else. So that's really good. It also leads into Spirit Blade 2. So basically, I can go straight into the Spirit Blade 2, which is quite nice. Because it's 2 hit, it increases Spirit more, so twice as much, or almost twice as much. The only downside, well, there are 2 downsides. One, it doesn't hit very high. So if a monster is in the air, you might have trouble. But you can still use Step Slash if you're unsheathed. But the sort of big issue, in quotation marks, is you can't Fade Slash. So I can't Fade Slash. I need to do 1 more attack. Now that's not really a huge issue at all, because you can just go straight to Special Sheathe anyway, which is going to be your main defensive option. So yeah, Drawn Double Slash is basically the way better option than Step Slash. There's really no reason to use Step Slash and Double Drawn Slash, especially because you can still use the Step Slash even if you're unsheathed. If you are unsheathed. It's also a bit faster, I think, as well. So yeah, just go for it. Use Drawn Double Slash. Now the last one is a bit more interesting. So now we get Spirit Reckoning instead of Spirit Roundslash. So basically this is a change to the Spirit combo. So the first 2 hits are the same, but now we get this thing called Dividing Slash, and then we'll go into our Spirit Reckoning. Let me get my gauge up again. Okay, so we can go into Spirit Blade 2, Dividing Slash, and the Spirit Reckoning, which is a down slam, then an up slam. The damage is much higher, well, a bit higher. So it goes from 102 to 120. Most of the damage goes towards the last hit. But this has a few good things and a few bad things about it. One of the good things is it allows for a forward dash. So a Dividing Slash is basically you can't press forward and step forward. which is quite nice. It can let you follow up the enemy's attack and therefore has sort of a longer range forward. The issue is that its range is much narrower. You can't hit enemies to your side anymore, which you could with the Roundslash. So it's a bit harder to use. It also doesn't sheath you, so when you do the Roundslash you automatically sheath. Here you don't, so that's pretty good as well. So yeah, basically you have more options. You can just keep the defense up, and I can go straight into, for example, well, that should have been a Spirit Helm breaker, but I don't have this particular kit. But yeah, so it's, in my opinion, I prefer the Spirit Reckoning. Not because of the Spirit Reckoning, even though it has higher damage, it's a bit slower, but the Dividing Slash is very, very nice. The big thing is, for example, I can use the Iai Spirit Slash, use that to go straight into Spirit Blade 2, if I had the gauge actually. Let me build that up again. Okay. So what I can do is I can go Iai Spirit Slash, and then dash out of that into Dividing Slash, and the Reckoning, which you can't really do nearly as well with the Roundslash. Basically, your Dividing Slash is better than Spirit Blade 3, but in my opinion, Reckoning is worse than the Roundslash. Because if you use Iai Spirit Slash, you're going to be using the Dividing Slash a lot. In my opinion, Reckoning is slightly better, but it's not a strong recommendation. You can use whichever one you wish. So yeah, basically, overall, these are my summaries and conclusions. So in summary, Longsword is easier. I'm not sure if I mentioned yet, but if you die, you keep your gauge now. Because so Longsword is easier, it's faster, it has longer range, it has more defensive options, and it has more damage. Most of its power went straight to the Iai Spirit Slash, but other attacks got some love as well, mainly the Spirit Helm Breaker. So they just made our two strongest attacks even stronger. But yeah, so that's basically the Longsword in Rise. Huge buffs. It's really, really fun, really, really good. Sort of the problem, which sounds like a bit of a humble brag, is it's almost too strong that the game might not be too much of a challenge for using the Longsword. But yeah, it's really, really good and really, really strong. So yeah, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe and all of that stuff. I'll have an updated builds video over the next few days, hopefully. So yeah, be interested in that if you like to know about builds and stuff. And yeah, see you all next time, and happy hunting.